I'm the Chief Communications Officer at CEA, and this is what we hope is the first of a series of conversations that we will have with you, our stakeholders, this year. We're really looking forward to this, and we hope you have a lot of information to share with you. Before we get started, I just want to say that we all know that our beloved state of California is, of course, prone to earthquakes, and we at the California Earthquake Authority, of course, offer insurance to more than 1 million policyholders. All of that means that, of course, there are a lot of issues that we have to focus on. And so during the course of this year, we will be talking to you guys, and we hope that these conversations really help to inform our strategic planning. Let's go to the next slide, because the very first thing that I want us to do is to go old-fashioned, if you want, and make a note of the phone number that could help us if we have any kind of technical problem. So use a pen and paper, or take a screenshot, or take a photograph of it. But 916-399-3895 is the number to call if you have any technical difficulties, and Swan is standing by to help us. If you prefer to listen to this webinar in Spanish or in sign language, if you need American Sign Language, we do have 2 interpreters available. Silvana and Yelka are translating into Spanish, while Danae and Marlene are helping us with American Sign Language. And there is a button on your Zoom control bar to help you with that. If you want to use closed captions, we also have a button that can help you with that feature as well. 3 more quick things I just want to talk about very quickly. I know our CEO, Tom Welsh, very much wants this to be a conversation, not a presentation, but a conversation amongst us. But if you do have any questions that you'd like to submit, please use the Q&A feature, and we will answer them as time allows. If we cannot get to it, please address your concerns by sending us an email. That our email address is calquakefeedback@calquake.com. Again, if we can't answer questions during the time that we have here, you can always email us. And I assure you that email box is monitored by real life human beings, not bots. We are, of course, in the world of social media. And so I just want to let everybody know that we are recording this webinar for future use, and we may make it available on social media. And by you staying on the line, that confirms that you consent to our recording. So that's kind of all the housekeeping, as it were. I'm now going to hand it over to Joe Zuber, who's going to give us an antitrust statement. And then after that, we'll hand over to Tom Welsh. Joe?
Thanks, Charlotte. The most exciting part of the presentation here. This is a meeting that's organized by the California Earthquake Authority, which we refer to as here as a CEA. It's possible, being an insurance organization that we are, it's possible the representatives of insurance companies, perhaps including both those of CEA participating insurers and those of non-participants, might be in attendance at this meeting. So whenever there are meetings that are attended by representatives of multiple insurance companies during which the business of insurance is discussed, including CEA operations or policy, it's important for participants to keep antitrust policies in mind and to abide by those policies. For that reason, when participating in this meeting, please keep the following guidelines in mind. First of all, an employer representative of an insurance company must not discuss that company's insurance business, including in the case of a CEA participating insurer, how that company conducts its CEA business. Insurance company employees and representatives must not discuss the business of either a CEA participating insurer or a non-participating insurer. Finally, in the case of CEA participating insurer employees or representatives, please don't discuss at this meeting how your company or another participating insurer handles or services CEA policies. If you want to have a discussion like that, that discussion any discussion on that subject has to be in a separate meeting that's solely between the CEA and your company. Everybody, insurance company or representative or not, should keep in mind that it's the individual responsibility of each participant in this meeting to ask the discussion should be stopped if you hear it straying outside of these guidelines. And that's it, Charlotte or Tom.
Thanks so much, Joe. So I'm going to hand it over to Tom Welsh. I hope you can all hear me. I seem to have a video issue. There you go. So Tom is our CEO. He was appointed by the board last month to serve on an interim basis while the board searches for a permanent CEO. I think all of us know Tom. He joined CEA about 5 years ago. And before he was appointed CEO, he was the Chief Legal and Compliance Officer. And so duties included, of course, oversight of legal service, compliance activities, government relations, as well as management of CEA's information technology and administrative systems. So Tom, over to you.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And Joe, thanks for the admonition. Much appreciated. A lot of these early announcements create an air of formality that hopefully we can pierce through as we continue the series of discussions, because it is going to be really important to us that we maintain the collaboration that we've had with most, if not all, of the stakeholders who joined us today. We're going to make this hopefully pretty short and really focus just on making sure that we create the right channels for everybody. Let me back up for a second. And as Charlotte said, I'm the CEO. I was appointed when Glenn Pomeroy left after 16 years, just in mid-January. And the board, in the process of creating transitional leadership while they conduct a search, asked me and the rest of the staff to really keep our focus on several important pillars of our business: maintaining operational excellence here, executing on the jobs that we do for our policyholders, the policyholders who fund our business. Always looking for opportunities to improve and become more efficient as we do the work of being the largest earthquake insurance provider, residential earthquake insurance provider here in the state of California. The second is maintaining the robust financial strength that we have that backs our policies. There's going to be no deterioration of that, and we're going to stay focused on maintaining that financial strength, because that's what our customers rely on to cover claims whenever that inevitable event happens. And then the final is just maintaining our event readiness and our overall operational stability. Those are the keys of the focus of our business over this period of time. And probably the search will conclude sometime in the summertime, looking at both internal and external candidates, so that the board can feel confident at the end of that process that they identify a leader for the organization that meets the needs of our policyholders and all stakeholders. The goals and objectives of this meeting, as we set up a collaboration with our stakeholders, we wanted to make sure that it really is a robust collaboration. I have a little sticker on my wall that says, "Talk less, listen more." That's going to be a theme of the substantive discussions, making sure that we create an environment and different communication channels that really facilitate that feedback. We need, with all of our stakeholders, a long-term relationship of trust and transparency in how the organization is governed and the strategic directions that we take as we move the business forward into the future and meet the mission of being an always ready place for the customers of our participating insurers to get the earthquake insurance that they need if they choose to buy it. Our objective is to not make this series of forums like the only channel that stakeholders can use to share feedback. So as we'll pick up on as the conversation continues, we will be open to a multitude of opportunities for you to participate. I will say that back in December, at our last board meeting, we really had tremendous stakeholder participation, active participation in that December 7th governing board meeting. And it was very clear from our board that they appreciated that level of engagement and participation and collaboration that we were getting. And at the end, near the end of that meeting, the board made it clear that they wanted this to continue and get started early in the year, which is what we're doing. As we get started, though, and you can go ahead and click to the next slide. As we get started, we didn't want to presume that we would know exactly how to formulate this and how to create the kind of opportunities that all of you may want, and what specific topics and what cadence you might want during the course of the year. So all of this is preliminary, and we welcome your thoughts both on on the scheduling and frequency and the particular sequencing of topics that we want to put on the table. We don't want a single forum to try to cover the entire waterfront of issues that are important to the operation of our business. So we're trying to break it up into chunks. But as we go through the year and as we engage with you, this can change and we can adjust. And if we have, for example, the April 18th forum that includes a discussion about the balancing of the need for robust financial strength with actuarial soundness and what that implicates or what implications that has on our rates. If at the end of that discussion, there's a desire for stakeholders to have more of that or to pivot into a different substantive areas, we'll open that up at the end of every session and get your input on how we create the agenda for the next session. So as you look at this, what we had thought was that a cadence of meetings every couple of months would be the right cadence and wouldn't occupy too much of your time and ask you to make investments that come at the expense of other constituents or your day jobs. And we're open to changing that, but we went ahead and we wanted to lay out the dates that we were thinking about. And as you'll notice, there is a correlation between the dates that we set for these kinds of stakeholder interactions and the governance and advisory panel meeting dates, because this really is designed at the end of the day to stimulate input from you and encourage you to attend those public meetings and help our advisory panel and help our governing board think about issues that are important to you as they make difficult decisions and important strategic decisions to move our business forward. So that's how we have kind of feathered in the dates to give you an opportunity to learn from us what we're thinking about, to hear from you, and then have that segue into these public meetings. You'll note that we haven't nailed down dates for all of our advisory panel meetings, but in general, we try to do, and we'll plan to do an advisory panel meeting a week or so before the governing board meetings. And so you see the first one in March will be March 5th. The advisory panel will get together and talk about some of these topics. They're open public meetings and all of you are welcome to attend. There will also be one in either late May or early June before the June 11th. Similarly in late August before the September meeting, and then again in late November before the December board meeting. So those dates are to be determined, and they will be posted on our website. And let me pause and just ask if anybody has any immediate questions. What we're going to do as you think about whether you have any questions about the cadence of meetings, and we can always add more. One of the things I wanted to mention is the subsequent sessions will probably be originated on Zoom, more like our board meetings. So instead of webinars, I don't want any of you feel like you have to go through a formal registration process just to get in touch with us and give us feedback. So the Zooms will be set up with a very fluid ability to raise your hand and open up and ask questions. The registration process that we asked you to go through helps us to make sure as we send out periodic interim communications, helps us keep in touch with you and make sure that we have current contact information. We did find when we sent out the save the date notice in January for this particular meeting that there were some bounce backs and things. And so registration helps us stay current on that. I think is there a question? You want to unmute anybody who has a question with respect to dates and cadence of meetings or frequency of meetings?
Tom, there's a question in our Q&A. It says, will you continue CEA practice of sending email reminders of meetings meeting dates and posting of meeting materials on CEA's website? I presume yes, but wanted to confirm. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll actually probably eventually annoy you with the frequency of our communications about opportunities to come to meetings and to provide feedback. But none of this will change the normal meeting notice distribution process that we've always followed. We may make some adjustments to our website in the months to come to just make the current meeting information really highly accessible and visible on the front, what's called the front page, the first page that you see on our website. So we're actually trying to work on more notice and easy navigation and accessibility to get you into these meetings. And, you know, if we ever overdo it and you're tired of listening to us, you can give us that stakeholder feedback and we'll be respectful of that as well. So let me pivot to, you know, we're having this organizational meeting, which, as I said, our goal here with all of this work is to be efficient and make you feel like we're adding value and that your participation adds value, not just for us, but for the constituents and the companies and entities that you represent. So that's important to us. And we want feedback. Don't feel like at this moment you need to give us immediate feedback on how you might want to see us stack up the topics and sequence them. Feel free to use the feedback email those of us that you who are counterparts with you here on the CEA staff. If you have some thoughts about how we sequence it, we're wide open to making sure that the agendas that we set, the topics that we talk about and get feedback on for the benefit of our governing board are organized in a way that really feels efficient and useful and current to you as you think about the kind of feedback that you want to provide. Initially, we wanted to start in April with a discussion about really what are two of the very fundamental competing objectives that we have, which is balancing the maintenance of a high level of financial strength that stands behind our policy promise to the 1 million+ customers that we have in California against how that impacts our actuarial soundness and the cost of our product. Those are two, not the only objectives that we're focused on and that our board will be focused on setting a strategy to pursue, but the balancing of those felt like us as a really good place to start the conversation. So we'll start there and build that foundation, and then focus in June on other competing objectives, like what our product should look like in the short term and in the long term. We are a catastrophe insurance company, which is different from and covers a peril that is impossible to predict with certainty as to when it's going to occur and how severe it will be, which makes cat insurance unlike the traditional personal lines insurance products, auto, homeowners, that have higher frequency and generally lower severity losses that are easier from an actuarial standpoint to predict. But so we'll focus on product. We'll also focus on CEA's sustainability and our long-term ability to stay here in this market, serving the needs of California, even after a really large earthquake hits. And then in August, we'll also add on to and really laser focus on that sustainability picture, in part because to the extent that all stakeholders and our board agree that there are things we can do with our statute to enhance our sustainability and stimulate collaborative long-term capital support from the industry and the participating insurers that we share customers with and partner with us on claims administration and policy administration. We want to focus in the summer, later in the summer, on those issues to see whether there are opportunities to find consensus around statutory changes that can be made to really strengthen CEA. That would lead nicely into an early 2025 collaboration with the legislature about whether and how those changes and enhancements to our sustainability can be made. That was our thinking about sequencing. I put sort of a wrap-up session there, but frankly, that could also be additional substantive sessions that continue through the fall and into the coming years, because this is not just a static sort of one-time forum or a single series of meetings, but we want to set up a cadence and a permanent evergreen infrastructure that really allows all of you to reach us and get to our board and talk to them about things that are important to you and your constituents. So let me pause there. And as I said, we are welcome to any kind of feedback on this, on either the cadence of the meetings, thoughts on how to organize topics in a logical, sequential manner, and feel free to share that kind of input with us whenever you have a chance. You want to go ahead and flip to the next slide. And I wanted to throw out here some logistics issues in keeping with the notion that we didn't come to this meeting and won't come to every other meeting with an absolute inflexible view on how to conduct meetings. We'd also welcome your feedback on things like the format of these meetings. Should they be virtual, Zoom meetings entirely? Are you interested in periodic in-person meetings? We're happy to do that. We will be relocating our offices mid to late summer to another building because our lease here at 801 Capitol Mall is expiring in June. So we'll be moving over to 400 Capitol Mall. And so there's a large meeting room there that is available to us that we can use for in-person meetings. We can also do hybrids, and probably even if we have an in-person meeting, would make that accessible to people who can't travel. So if you have any thoughts on meeting format and preferences, feel free to share those as well. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, this forum series is by no means intended to be the only way in which you can reach us, reach our board, and share feedback on important strategic issues. We're also wide open to individual one-on-ones, and we'll be reaching out to people as the year progresses to provide opportunities if you want to just, instead of sharing thoughts in an all hands, all stakeholders setting, if you think it would be more productive to bounce ideas off us one-on-one, we're going to be open to that as well.
We have a hand raised, Tom.
Great. You want to unmute him?
I will. Douglas, I am unmuting you.
Hi, Doug. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks. Just want to confirm, first of all, that you can hear me.
Yep. Just fine.
Very briefly, I'm not exactly sure, what your orientation is for the rest of this meeting, but just two very quick comments. One, just about the way it's sort of presented right now. It's a little just kind of alienating because I have no idea who else is in the room other than you and our ASL translator. And so it's hard to just know, it doesn't feel as much like a conversation. So I'm not sure if structurally we might be able to create a way in which people can see each other, or at least there's an opportunity to know who else is in the room and who's part of the conversation. So that was just one note, and maybe we're going to change into that later in this meeting. Or
yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly what we're trying to stimulate. And so Zoom helps with that because it does allow you to see participants. But your point is very well taken, and we are going to make it as accessible as possible.
Okay, great. Yeah. So thanks. So that would be, I think, great for future. And then the other piece was just going to your list of topics for the conversations over the course of the year. One thing that I noticed, I think that the financial soundness and actuarial soundness that you talked about for the first or the next meeting, and then the third meeting, I think, was long-term sustainability, both of which sort of have a financial aspect to them. And then the middle one was competing balances, and you talked about possibility of product. I feel like we might be we might be underrepresenting the importance of having a conversation about the sort of quality of coverage, accessibility, and affordability of the CEA. I think that I think that a central topic should be: are we okay with the CEA just being a product, being there to be available, or is the goal of the CEA to make sure that more and more people actually have the earthquake coverage that's so critical to economic security and resilience? And I just feel like that conversation really needs to be uplifted, both in terms of the availability, but also in the amount of coverage in the statewide participation by consumers, as well as sort of the quality of coverage issues, which I think you probably were getting at in part in this balancing competing objectives, but it feels like it's just sort of one of the things, whereas financial strength and sustainability get 2 whole sessions. I'm hoping that we can have some time really to focus on the product from the consumer experience perspective and meeting the consumer need.
Fantastic thoughts, Doug, and they're shared by everyone here. And I will make it, I do want to make it clear that just because we have a preliminary topic up here, none of these discussions should be to the exclusion of other integrated and overlapping elements of our strategy. We describe these as competing objectives, and you've seen slides in the past about our 5 core competing objectives that need to be balanced and that our strategy needs to address. And so I was in the slide, frankly, I was just trying to use fewer words and not have it too busy, but that's exactly, you perceive that correctly. Those are specifically the kinds of issues that we want to bring out, not only on June 27th, but they essentially become part of the conversation on April 18th as well, because they're so related to how much financial strength we have to maintain and what our rates are going to be, because those touch directly on affordability and accessibility for consumers. So thank you for that. And we will try to make this, all of the substantive sessions, as kind of open and transparent as Zoom will allow us. There is a little feature at the bottom of Zoom, if you're interested. If you go down to the bottom of your screen, there's a participants button that you can click, and it'll actually let you know who all's in the room at the meeting. Sometimes it has just phone numbers, but typically people will load in their name as they log in. So thanks for that, Doug. Very much appreciated. And that actually on slide 7, the next slide, that kind of gets to the Doug was addressing what we were trying to call out is share whatever thoughts you have with us about additional subjects, topics that you want to discuss, and frankly, topics that you think our governing board should be focused on as they think about our long-term strategy and prioritization of all of these initiatives. Will continue to build and get more refined as we move forward with these meetings. So that
we have another hand up.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
Dennis, I have unmuted you.
There we go. Tom, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So first, congratulations. And second, as you were talking about, some of the strategic objectives and the planning process that you went through before, consistent, I think, with some of the stage setting or scene setting ideas that Doug has just mentioned, perhaps putting a summary of those operative documents and/or the operative documents on the webpage for the stakeholder sessions would be helpful.
Thanks, Dennis. That's a great idea. And that actually calls up a point, which is that on our website, there is a landing page that is dedicated to this series and of conversations and the long-term engagement with stakeholders. So if you ever need something or have a suggestion about how we can populate that landing page with materials that are really helpful to you, let us know. It's easy for us to find stuff in our archives and get it up there and maybe create the kind of summaries that you're talking about. We're happy to do that. But the landing page there is really designed to be a one-stop shop to keep track of what are the dates, what are the topics, what kind of materials are available to help facilitate those discussions. So we'll be in anticipation of the April 18th meeting. I think I got that date right. We'll be populating that with the materials that seem to us relevant, but by no means will the conversation be limited by what we post up there. So anytime you need something from us, just let us know and we'll get it to you.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on how we can make this whole process useful to you? Again, don't feel obligated to share it now, but hit any of us with comments using that the email address that is there posted on our landing page and is in the invite to this meeting will be a good way of ensuring that we don't miss anything because admittedly occasionally emails get missed in the crush of business, but we'll be very responsive to any requests and feedback on how to make this useful to you. And in keeping with not wasting your time, I was cautiously optimistic that we could get through this just organizational discussion and communication about how we want to put this together in less than an hour, and we seem to have succeeded. So, any other final questions, thoughts, or recommendations before we give you back some time? So hearing none, I do just on behalf of our entire board, that's why we're here. We're here as staff to empower our board to make sure that they can guide this organization appropriately, consistently with our statute, the interests of the policyholders who fund our operation, and the broader stakeholder community that we're here to serve. So we really appreciate the engagement and look forward to a long and deep and substantive set of communications with all of you as we move forward. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Very much appreciate it.